Now, Mark Cuban did an interview, and the interview went over a lot of people's heads, black folks, the Dallas Mavericks. I was correct. So, what Mark Cuban was doing, he was doing an old white supremacist trick. And I'm not saying he's a white supremacist. I'm just saying he's possibly a suspected white supremacist because he did a suspected white supremacist trick. He deflected from systematic white supremacy and white racism by using the minimizing all racism is equal, everybody is prejudice con game that a lot of people do. He did this whole thing, and when people do this, I'm side-eyeing them. I don't care how liberal they're supposed to act and how down they are supposed to be. When I see people trying to minimize and deflect from systematic white supremacy and you know what you're doing, I'm side-eyeing you and I cannot co-sign you. I don't give a damn how silly some of these other Negroes are, because a lot of black folks were like, well, at least Mark Cuban was being real. Mark Cuban said this. He was like talking about Donald Sterling. And it's very interesting that he would come out talking about Donald Sterling and really defending Donald Sterling, trying to pretend that he's not. The whole interview, let's be very clear. That whole thing with Mark Cuban was really him trying to defend Donald Sterling. He's trying to defend Donald Sterling. That's what he was doing. So Mark Cuban came out talking about, well, everybody's prejudiced. Everybody's bigoted in some way. Watch those words. Because when people try to act like bigotry and prejudice and systematic racism are interchangeable, they're deliberately being deceptive. Let me say that again. When people try to make it seem like systematic racism, bigotry, and prejudice are somehow interchangeable, they are deceptive. They're deliberately trying to be deceptive. Because they know that it's not the same. They try to pretend that prejudice is the same as systematic racism. And that's the issue that we have with racism in America, is that it's systematic. And I can't wait to Hidden Colors 3 come out, because we go deep into this stuff. We talk about systematic racism. But with Mark Cuban, he started making these jive-ass comparisons, talking about, well, hey, man, we're all prejudiced. Everybody's prejudiced. If I see a black guy with a hoodie walking down the street late at night, I'm going to walk to the other side of the street. And if I see a white guy with tattoos and a bald head, I'm going to walk to the other side of the street. So, hey, prejudice is, So that bullshit false comparative narrative. And he did that, and a lot of people called him out on it. A lot of people called him out on it. Like, Mark, okay, you're not fooling us, Mark. Now, some people went along with it, but a lot of people called him out on that, because that whole hoodie thing it sounded like a low-key reference to Trayvon Martin, and he basically apologized to the family, because that whole thing about if you see a black kid with a hoodie, that doesn't automatically make him a criminal. I mean, hell, Trayvon Martin had on a hoodie. He wasn't a criminal, and he was targeted, and he was killed, and legally killed, because of systematic white supremacy. You understand that? And comparing a black kid with a hoodie to a skinhead, basically, a dude with a bunch of tattoos and a bald head, two different things. So, again, Mark Cuban, his whole thing was basically trying to defend Donald Sterling. That's what he was trying to do. Because, again, these guys, and that's the problem with systematic white supremacy, is that other people in the dominant society will try to create sanctuary, protect these known white supremacists out here. Now, after Mark Cuban said what he had to say, the coon train started rolling. Okay? The coon train ran off the tracks. Let's just be real. And a person who bought a first-class ticket to the coon train was Stephen A. Smith. And we put Stephen A. Smith on the coon train already, on the satire coon train that we have. We put him on the coon train. And, I want to like Stephen A. Smith. I don't think Stephen A. Smith is a bad guy. I still don't think Stephen A. Smith is a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He's not. But Stephen A. Smith, and this is what he said. Stephen was like, oh, I agree. I agree with Mark Cuban. And then he did the old, well, we blacks got to get it together. We got to present ourselves a certain way. Oh, fuck. Oh, I shook my head. He's doing the same old, well, if we just act right, white folks will stop being racist towards us. If we just dress a little better. Oh, man, look, people, when you say that, man, you ain't fooling nobody. You're not fooling nobody. Oh, look, black folks, don't let any other black person tell you that it's about what you wear. All this bullshit, and what people do, they make a very extreme comparison. If you go to a job interview with your pants sagging and your hat backwards, you ain't gonna get a job. Well, who's doing that? Let's just be real. Black folks got sense enough to not go to a goddamn job interview dressed like, they're in the hood or they're in a rap video. Black folks know better than that. So to try to minimize black unemployment by just saying we ain't dressing right, that's disingenuous. And you should be called out for that. You should be called out for that. All these black people are not unemployed because they're sagging and they're wearing their hats to the back. That's not why they're unemployed. Let's be very clear. Because you got they've done studies that shows that if a person's name sounds black, their application don't even get looked at. It doesn't even matter. I saw a story today that showed that half of all black graduates from college are unemployed. Half of black college graduates right now are unemployed. So please miss me with that whole we ain't dressing right bullshit. Because that's a cop-out. And when I see black folks do it, just basically say, hey, look, black folks, I don't want to lose my job, so I got to say what white people want to hear. Just say that. Stephen A. Smith, and tell him I said it too. Just say that. Hey, look, all the wealth and the resources and the jobs are here. I'm not going to really ride out for the black folks because y'all ain't got nothing to really hold me down. I can't put myself on the line for the black folks. The jobs and the wealth and the resources is over here. So I'm going to say what these people want to hear. Just say that. Because people talking about all these other actors and stuff. I'm not going to name everybody, but there's a lot of people came out trying to defend not just Donald Sterling, but Mark Cuban. And when black folks do it, these are black people who are trying to keep their jobs. They're black people who are simply trying to keep their jobs. They know that they have to say certain things in order to stay employed by the dominant society. And that's a very sad way to live. You got to say stuff that you really don't mean. You don't believe that stuff. Don't think for a minute. I don't think Stephen A. Smith believes that bullshit. Because even he said, I'm dressed in a suit and I get discriminated against. So he knows the deal. And brother, shout out to Michael Eric Dyson. Michael Eric Dyson went on his show and gave his ass that work. Michael Eric Dyson gave him that work. So, yeah, Michael Eric Dyson shut his whole shit down. Yeah, Michael Eric Dyson got in him. But it's just sad. I want to say this to younger black males. Don't look at cats who are riding the coon train, who are buck dancing for a job. Don't look at that as something that you think you have to do. The name of the game is not to conform to systematic white supremacy. That's not how you're supposed to live. You're not supposed to kind of conform to this nonsense. You should work to protect yourself against it and to remove that system and replace it with a system of justice. That's your goal. I'm not about to sit up here and conform and tell other black people to conform and just don't wear a hoodie and don't walk around at night. And that's not justice. How about stop practicing systematic white supremacy? How about stop being racist? Let's try that on. Because black folks keep running around on this hamster wheel trying to do things that's not going to seem bad in light of the dominant society. Look, the president, you can be president and they can still call you nigga. Look at the dude out there, the police commissioner in New Hampshire. Old white man out there, police commissioner, Barack Obama's a nigger, and I ain't gonna apologize. So there's nothing you can really do. Stop running on that hamster wheel. Just be the best you can be. Stack your money up. Let's create an economic base so that nonsense won't affect us. You dig what I'm saying? So just stop giving up your integrity. And I hate to see young black folks look at that, because that messes with their esteem. They look at that as like, damn, man, is that what I gotta do when I grow up? Young black people know an ass-kissing Negro when they see one. We touch on